My most satisfying moment as a family lawyer is when I'm concluding an adoption. Family lawyers, we joke with people, although it's kind of the joking through the tears. People don't stop at the divorce lawyer's office and say, gee, my marriage is going great, I thought you just want to know. Any more than they typically go to the doctor's office and say, I feel wonderful, I just thought I'd share that with you. They're here because something that they never wanted to happen has happened. They're filing, or they need to file, or they're been filed against. And so we see so much pain and sadness that when you help to bring a family together or expand a family like an adoption will, that's a really gratifying moment. So the adoption really is, but let me give you a close second, and this also will sound unusual. Close second is when we have a divorce case that has begun and the parties reconcile and the case is dismissed and they're able to go forward with their marriage. That's pretty satisfying too.
Oh gosh, most satisfying moment as a family lawyer is when you see someone years later. It's not in court. It's not that Yahoo high five, we did it, we got all the money we wanted. It's when you see a client a few years later, and I've had a bunch of them. You see them at the mall, at a ball game, and they look at you and you know you were there when they were at their lowest and they're doing okay. It's satisfying when you see them, and I forget that they were clients. I just think of them as friends that we shared a moment, or we shared a year, or we shared a couple years that were really hard for them, but we got through it and they respect me and I respect them, and those are the good ones. The other moments are when I see judges who tell me, I know that was a hard case and you did a great job for your client. No matter how the result came out, the fact that judges respect us, earning a judge's respect is probably the highest honor, highest praise we can get.
My most satisfying moment as a family lawyer is when I am successful in helping people achieve their goals, primarily related around their children. So if a client of mine has a desire for something to occur legally with respect to a child or children, that we make it happen and that it's successful.
Probably my most satisfying moment was the first time I argued a case in the Supreme Court and was successful and changed the law on the issue of child relocation. And I remember I had won the case in the trial court, I lost the case in the appellate court, and then I took it to the Supreme Court, they accepted it. I won in the Supreme Court, the oral argument went well. And before I got my ruling in the Supreme Court, I remember that morning kind of having an intuitive sense that was going to be coming, and I was out to lunch with my wife, and we got the ruling. It was a successful ruling, and needless to say, I was pumped up because of that. And I remember distinctly the next morning, I was cleaning out my bird's cage. I had a parrot and I was cleaning out his cage, thinking you can never get too big of a head when you're cleaning out bird shit. So I remember that.
Finding satisfying moments as a family law attorney is not that difficult. We're known for having been mired into the conflict sorts of issues, but there's so many things that we do. And once in a while, it's the small things. A good example was a case in which I became aware that a client of mine's stepson was in transition, a gender identity issue. And he had a name that was quite odd and quite feminine. And the child didn't want to do things like get a driver's license, was delaying graduating from high school, those sort of things, because all of those benchmarks would have been under the effeminate name that he didn't like. And name changes are really not that hard, especially if both of the parents agree. For a minor, you just simply more or less put together a piece of paper for the judge to approve. And we did that. So with probably 30 minutes of being thoughtful and caring and 15 minutes of work, I was able to change this kid's life. And this child actually blossomed, was excited about graduating, got his driver's license, got a job, everything turned on. We don't think how important it is for objective names and how they can change our lives. But that's just one example of many, many things you can do.
My most satisfying moment as a family lawyer came following a deposition of a business valuation expert. That expert had made a number of mistakes in his valuation report, but more importantly, the process. And during his deposition, he complained about me and all the things that I failed to do for him in the business valuation setting, which is not that unusual. So I pull out of my file 2 letters that I wrote him following our meetings regarding the business valuation. And I said, "Dear expert, if there's any other information you need, or if we've not answered your questions fully, or if there's additional documentation you need, please let me know." I had 2 of those letters in my file. So at the end of the deposition, I showed him each of the letters and asked him, "Did you try to contact me about needing any additional information or documents?" And at that point, he just put his head down and said no. And I ended the deposition on that tone. Now, this was a very large business with hundreds of employees, clearly marital property. So the valuation was by far the most meaningful asset in the marital estate. And at that point, I knew we were going to win the negotiations over the value of that business. But to have somebody attack me personally, make accusations about my character and my lack of thoroughness, when obviously we'd given this person every piece of paper that they'd asked for and answered every question during that process. So it was very satisfying to have that victory for both my practice, my firm, the people working on that case, as well as for our client.